he just helped a friend of mine that grew up in Florida. I'm not sure if get his price Mustang in his garage, because he's still in Florida, you know.
In the hot week.
And he has that from the awaken, you know, where that taco truck used to be. Yeah. And then bought down there. He put a hell of a lot of money in his two houses, because he owns two houses in his house. Once his kids, and once his. And he put a lot of money in his. These cabins are all.
Can't get to the task after they did. You gotta go up the phone. No, I'll do that baby subdivision. Just past division.
Just past D&W grocery store and all that, you know. All that baby area is, you know, you can get by on, they're trying to divert traffic, but, you know, it's, babies go on that hill, but then there's parts that's down by the water. And so, plus the water's coming up, so.
So the vision for it goes.
Yeah, by the golf course.
It's worth it. Must be
Snow and snow melt in the woods and stuff. And the ditches are down, like, Metro Street and stuff like that. You know, that subdivision that's back behind D&W, and, you know, back in there.
Yes. That's you probably throw what's in there now.
I'm staying up here, so.
Wow, these guys are rough. Yeah. Right up to the top of your wall yet?
Just went over.
Oh.
Just now. It was, this morning was like probably 4 inches below it. And right now it's just crested it. But there's probably a foot. We'd have to raise like another foot to get to the house. So
It's over our season. Just
Did it take over?
No,
But it can't get up to the house.
No, you're high though, he's high.
Yeah, well, when we went by earlier, you still had.
Yes, but now it's.
Like that?
I said we got back from our
That's
walk.
not that shape.
What's she doing? It's just
I don't
like
know,
good.
he hit her. You're mad at CJ and he just walked him down.
That didn't work, so I had to go.
That's like 6 inches more than we need.
Yeah, take care of business, girl.
I'm done with this tomfoolery.
Yeah. Across all the streets, where's it in? Where's that in?
Yes, we got a couple more days before the festival.
We got more rain.
Yeah.
Oh, last night's rain.
Hopefully it won't be. It's not much compared to downstate.
Well, there's a lot of problems. Sturgeon Island is underwater.
Yeah, we saw it
over there
today.
today.
Yeah, and Bob went down to, tried to get down to the end of Carver there, and it went up to his rocket panels on his truck. You tried it a little while ago, it's a foot higher than what it was before.
Yeah, when
So
we were out walking today, it was,
it's getting bad, and it's gonna stay bad for a while. It's gonna take a long time for that water to get through that thing.
Pump out what I do.
oh, pump.
It's above the seawall, but now the water's above the seawall, so.
The neighbors
Push it
told,
uphill.
I've got a pump.
No, I mean, like the irrigation.
Oh.
Is down there by the.
did you take the fresh picture of Gary's house? I don't have a fresh one.
Probably just wait for this.
Oh.
How much I think the dam will get tonight.
I hope they get that power plant, because they said,
There's supposed to be an emergency meeting tonight at the Opera
well, I
House.
read the article and said it.
It got canceled because it's an evacuation order.
Oh, it's already under evacuation now?
They just issued the order,
Oh.
and that's part of it's a pretty big area.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all that, just past the dam.
Yeah, they said if it was.
Well, it said if they get that power plant running, it's an additional 30% capacity.
Would help. But
I
that
never-
has been running for
I never
years.
gave any thought to what a watershed really meant. So now, holy cats, a lot of water going.
How's yours doing? How are you doing?
Okay, my sump pump's running, I have two sump pumps, and they're running,
All the
constantly.
time.
So it's just pumping out, and coming back in, but, oh well. Nothing's being destroyed.
The Lord said the world would not be destroyed by water. I'm wondering now.
Well, I'm trying to get plans put out so we can start building. So. It's just-
Go for what?
Yeah, it's like careful about how much water you put in your life.
Look like a Lord
How much water you put in like your shower.
Oh, I know it, I've been,
Because you can't, when the water's that high, it's even hard to flush your toilet.
well, and so far, the problem was last year after the ice storm, that's exactly what happened. I think right now my septic is not completely full, so until that fills up, it's gonna be okay, and then last year my septic was just full of water and got it pumped
And they had
out.
they evacuated.
Where in the world? We had that big ice disaster last year, which we haven't even finished cleaning up yet.
No.
And it cost, we worked our butts off all summer on that, and I still had to pay someone to come in $7,000
And they're not here, it's just.
to get rid of stuff.
And I'm hoping, we had so many disastrous things, but like I could tell there were the Ronan's place across the street here at the township, everybody's talking about having like
the neighbor.
an emergency.
Well,
contact. We all should get together and do it.
Well, that's what your township board is supposed to
And
do,
it was.
tell you the truth.
Well, we've talked about it.
Organize,
Yeah.
to work with the churches or the school or the fire department,
Our church
somebody.
doesn't have a generator. I don't know if Ronan's place has a generator. 'Cause our church, that was one of the things.
You got that Generac thing?
They do not have a generator.
It's flushing out right now.
Otherwise, they could be, because I think in order to be. Have a-
31 is closed
I
in
don't know.
Bayview. So it was 45 minutes to get around
Oh, my goodness.
Bayview.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go around on my way to work today. That Enterprise store, there's cars out back, water under the.
This your last.
Oh, yeah, Fred, there's something to video this morning. Because in the back, when the parking lot's full, there's a little low spot in the grass and they park cars in there. He sent me a picture of as water up like a nose in the car. I said, I'd hate to be the guy in the park goes there. Ah, he said, "You're gonna get your ass fired."
That's what it is.
There's gonna be some water.
Right.
Is this thing on?
As long as it's not down.
They have a boat, like,
He gets up
with
there.
a white boat, dancing, real nice rowboat. Yeah, we used to rowboat too.
Yeah.
Somebody
drilled a bunch of holes in
Really fast on your hand, and that's the first close.
Yeah.
No,
it's-
Okay.
I said, show her.
Right.
It was the first time they ever watched.
He answered.
Well,
so-
that's because of this.
Yeah.
But like,
I just drove by.
the band brought the
I
water,
was just gonna say that, and the parents come home, they go,
Brenda was.
and maybe that takes some.
oh, and even the first night.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. And of course. Never would have done that.
The sewer guy.
My holy smokers.
I'm out of lady.
By the time the water's over.
But I remember her 3-year-old.
I saw that too. I saw. Was there only, I think, that maybe.
So they said that it's
Oh, great idea.
gonna come out.
I know.
Little, right?
Oh. My youngest one is six.
We drove over there on that.
Early morning.
But you're reading now.
Oh, I'm reading. on-
Somehow it's the lower house.
Yeah.
What is it?
He,
Next tree or what?
yeah, they're a murder mystery.
First,
He wrote the book, which is very, very popular. He has been for many years. The Land Among Us. It's a real popular book. I think we even read it.
There's a birthday
I
boy.
don't see it.
Birthday.
Yeah.
Birthday.
I need waiters.
He
Yeah,
is
I
he's
have
all
one
about
of
Indiana
those.
and northern Minnesota, UP,
Oh, it is.
Wisconsin, all those, in all the different tribes.
You
So,
don't have to go as
and most of
far
the people
like
are
30
Black and just how they get around. And there's still, and like the last of the river was all about all the Indian girls on the reservation around taken care of. They have.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was.
15, and they're promising to be taken care of by these guys in prostitute trade. They become the. They grew up, but all of a sudden they go, okay, he gave you all this food and these clothes, and you gotta help us. And then they get locked in and there ain't no turning back. So, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good, glad to be
Mary,
back.
Mary, like, Mary, how's my girlfriend?
You want over here?
You know.
Here that I want to get back. And all the water is going, all the properties.
Yeah, my wife.
I think they're trying to get them here.
I guess.
Is this the one you amended?
Yeah, well, I just.
Yeah.
Brought it, it went out in the package, but
Two letters are a lot the same.
Good. They're not the big difference.
Yeah, but they're different.
We are driving through that.
Which one? That's Aaron, he's the engineer. He's the one I call. He's the one that has the answer all the
Ready,
time.
set, go.
So he has that, he's here, right here.
I live out in Jersey. Across from the.
Right next to the.
But on a. Guys always got that incredible.
Life is good.
I heard it this morning.
So I'm sure where you are.
Yeah, talk. No, in the ground, you know what I mean?
Okay,
My crawl space is keeping up.
okay, good, that's good.
You know, but
Your artist,
We have.
yeah, 5 feet up in this water.
we're high and dry, we're a little bit river.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I had to go get one.
That was the last.
I got one of the very good
Brings it right back.
Yeah, that's what we've been watching.
I think it come out of it. It's a drain down. High up. I was telling you.
Okay, it is 6:07. Thank you all for coming, for floating in. We'll start the sewer meeting very informal. And we have Aaron Nordman here and Steve Corcoran and Tom Prout and myself, Trudy May. Get started.
Sure. Just an update. Contract work did start this last week. The subcontractor for the phase 2, the drilling subcontractor, they got the 4-inch force mains underneath Witt, or actually off to the side, but going down Witt Boulevard, drilled in. They finished, I believe, yesterday, getting the last that 4-inch in. They were hoping to start on the 3-inch going out Barbara, and then over under the river and over to Sturgeon Island and drove the force mains out there as well. As of this afternoon, they've shut down. They'll come back when they can see where they're going. So, yeah, Aaron and I, we just got in. We had a detour off of 31 around the golf course there at Bayview, but we drove down Barbara, and yeah, I was here Thursday and Friday last week, and it was high. And part of the road was covered, but man, it's bad down there now. I know the house on the corner there, that red one, it's at least a foot up off the threshold. That one's flooded. So, and a lot of the other houses, it's right up to the foundation. So, but anyway, Walton is still hoping. They were hoping to start last week, then they were hoping to start this week. They're tied up on flood issues down there, work projects down in TC, and they can't work up here right now in these conditions. They're hoping to start next week if the water goes down. Their plan is still to dig in the lift station structures at the end of South and at the end of Mac. And then the schedule we got from them a couple of weeks ago had them then starting on main line, going up the west end of Birchfield and heading to the east end of it. They were hoping to start that second week of May. That's probably optimistic now at this point. But that's their plan. South and Mac lift stations, then up Birchfield, up Holden, South and Mac. Their plan was to pulverize Birchfield and Holden in one shot, get that done, bring the pavers in, and then pulverize South and Mac and do those two. So that schedule's kind of out the window. We're next scheduled to meet with them on Tuesday. Whether they're working or not, we'll plan on meeting with them on Tuesday and try to refresh the schedule based on all this flooding that's been going on. Phase 1, Matt's doing grinder pump installations over in the CDC and down South Prospect. They were hoping originally to start last week, then they pushed this week. Now they're saying they're hoping they can start maybe May 4th that week to get going on those grinder pump installations. And Elmer's, we're just waiting on trying to get some resolution with the lift station at Arthur, and Aaron can provide a brief update on that. We talked to some folks this afternoon. So that's kind of a status on where we sit right now. questions on schedule?
What is the main thing that people in phase 3 have to do to assure the fact that phase 3 has a chance to get on the board and happen? What's the next thing we have to do?
I'll defer, yeah, I think the request for proposals is on the street.
It's on the street.
Okay.
We've gotten a few responses, phone calls, a couple meetings. We've not gotten anything in writing yet. We have to give them a month. And I don't remember if that's May 4th or 5th. We're waiting for people to put their proposals together. That's where we are right now. It did go out to Performance, Mead and Hunt, Gosling Zubek, Police and Vandenbrink, OHM, Waitrim, 6.
And do we feel like 1 and 2 will be complete this year? I mean, I don't know what the.
We're open, so, phase 2 contract completion date hasn't been adjusted yet. It currently sits at the end of August. I can see that probably getting pushed, especially based on the weather that's been going on this week. And we're hoping that phase 1 finally gets closed out as well. Both those contractors are close, just waiting for weather and waiting for resolution on the lift station at Arthur Street as well.
So there's no possibility that we are going to break any ground in phase 3 this summer?
I don't feel I can answer that. We have to choose the engineering firm to do the PER, the pre-engineering report. I'll defer to performance engineering how long something like that might take.
So phase 1 and 2 will be 100%
I
before
believe
phase 3 gets on the docket.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to think phases 1 and 2 will be complete.
We talked about last meeting that getting the PER out and then getting the request out and having then the township selects a firm. The design or the PR gets put together, and that's what you can use to go towards your funding and that. And then the hope was, I think, that the funding cycle next spring will be where you'll be competing for funds. And if you get funding, then probably a year after that, will you be starting construction after you went out for bids and that. That's a likely process.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that written down anywhere?
No, we can write it down.
It would really be helpful to know what the process steps are, when they're supposed to be completed, or what the time is between completion of steps.
Well, it would be hopeful completion because as you know, Mr. Reedsma, you've been through this.
Right?
Hopeful is one
They
thing.
have been through it.
Yeah, and
And they really worked their butts off.
I
and got
know they
things
did.
moving through me. What is holding up your board not to get it done?
The RFP's out. What,
It should
right
have
now?
been out a long time ago.
Okay,
A long time ago.
Regardless, it's out.
But,
Yes, sir.
You had
That's
asked me
correct.
a question. I'm sorry, what's your name again?
which one?
Steve.
I'm Steve.
Yeah, Steve just said that we'd have to obviously reestablish what our completion date would be.
Yeah.
But you can only reestablish what a completion date would be if you have already determined what the date or estimated date of completion is. You don't have that written down anymore.
So one of the products of the PER is putting that whole proposed schedule together. What the design window would be, what the construction, bidding window, construction window. That's one of the products of the PER where it's brought back.
So like FOIA, phase 1, phase 2, I'd be able to get all those dates.
You can see what the dates were proposed. Yes.
No, for phase 1, phase 2 construction. With other dates out there for the construction process.
Yeah, there's completion dates for phase 1 and phase 2 already established. Yeah.
So I FOIA'd that, I could be able to get that information.
Yes.
Why isn't that information on the website?
well, I can't answer that.
Well, if you can't answer that, then why are you returning?
What? You mean the information on what the contracts are all on there? I thought.
On the web?
Should,
But people can't read through all the contracts. They'd like to have a summary.
okay, well, we can put that together. They're out there on website, if you go to the sewer expansion tab at the bottom, and you scroll to the bottom, it starts at the very beginning of this process. And we can put a summary together, certainly. This is the first time I've had someone ask me for a summary of phases 1 and 2 completion dates.
It would be nice to have that.
Okay.
Then you can set a date, you can then begin to communicate results to those dates. And if you don't have a date, there's always reasons why it's not hit, but at least you're communicating.
Well, we do, I agree. And we do, I believe, talk about them at these meetings. So the fact that I don't publish my notes that I keep
What
to
about these
myself.
board meetings? What about board meetings?
No, I don't think we talk about substantial completion dates and
What we talked about last fall, we did substantial completion inspections with USDA. September 24th, I think we did substantial completion for phase 1, LPS phase 1 gravity, and for the plant, phase 1 and phase 2 of the plant. And then their final completion dates are still pending. We've been extending them due to
To the west, yeah, I get that.
government shutdown, the weather and that. And we're gonna be bringing, right now, we haven't adjusted the phase 2 dates yet. They're in late August for both the LPS contract and the gravity contract. The phase 1 contract, we're gonna be bringing forward some change orders to push their completion dates a little bit more too. We got the Eagle grant expiring at the end of June. We got that extended to the end of August a few weeks ago, and they said that's it. We can't go past that. So we're gonna want to spend that grant down. We're gonna talk more about that in a few minutes. And we're gonna have to push Elmer's down as well because we don't have a resolution on the list.
This is, I think, for Aaron. Are we going to have for phase 3 a SHPO investigation?
I would assume that you will. They may accept the one that was already done, but I would not assume that going in.
Okay, and your estimation of time, because it took us a lot longer than what we thought it was going to be. How long do you think that will put phase 3 back doing that SHPO investigation?
What I think will happen is whoever is going to do the PER, you're going to lay out a timeline and you're going to run some of these things concurrent. There's long lead time items.
Right.
So you're going to have a discussion and you're going to say, okay, SHPO, reach out to them. Are you able to accept the one that was already done? If the answer is no, then you know you need to jump on that.
Right.
If they're going to accept it, then check, that's done.
And that took an extremely long amount of time for us to get that back. And it did push the construction back a little bit farther than what we wanted to the last time. I want to make sure that for phase 3, we did jump on that right away if we needed one. So the PER will tell us if we need one or not. Or
the PER won't. The firm who's going to manage that process for the township would, in my opinion, have the responsibility of moving all these things forward, that you identify the milestones that are critical to achieving a funding cycle in the next year.
can you explain really quick, because it's better coming from you than me, what a SHPO report is?
SHPO is the State Historic Preservation Office. So it's down in Lansing, and basically any project that you're going to do to receive federal funds is required to have a report from SHPO to ensure that you're not going into an area and disturbing land that has known artifacts or historic monuments or something along those lines. There's a whole list of things. So it's part records review and it's part research. And most firms, like a firm like ours, we're a small Northern Michigan firm. We don't have people set up for that. So what we do is we subcontract that out. And there's people that specialize in that type of thing. In phase 1, phase 2 process that we went through, it was things reopening after COVID, and people weren't allowed to go into the office and do the record research. It was like, it took forever and a half.
It wasn't the University of Indiana that was ultimately the one who ended up doing it for us.
The University of Illinois was
Illinois,
our
okay.
sub-consultant on it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
What about wetlands? Cause we all got that.
I wouldn't evaluate them today. Yeah, so kind of along the same lines of the SHPO, another piece of that whole thing is an environmental consultant that we use, same reasoning, we don't have people that specialize in that type of stuff. But there's an environmental review that goes along with all that, and wetlands is part of that.
Steve, the reason we're so concerned about phase three, my wife did an analysis, and 67% of the phase three property is directly on the water right now, with about 80% of it currently dealing with flooding impacts of septic systems. So that's why, we don't want cross connections and everything like, especially if you have an older septic system that only uses a dry well, you're gonna have it backing right up into the septic tank itself if there's nothing to stop, which has an outflow directly to the river. So that's why, phase 1 and 2 actually don't have that many properties directly on the water. They're more uptown here a little bit. But the other one's why we're looking at phase 3. We're all along the river on both sides. That's a lot of houses.
Right.
That's a lot of houses.
Yeah. One piece of your PDR, and one of the pieces we did early on too, in phase 1 and 2, that right there is part of your justifying the need for the project. You get documentation from the health department, you look at floodplain, you get all these environmental factors that say this area is not suitable for our septic. We need to have a public sewer system.
And it's not really, obviously this is not a yearly event, so to speak, but even when it receives the water, it's saturated so much that you're not perking it and you're not sending anything anywhere. So it's straight out.
Yes.
You get no arguments from us about the need. I know the PER they have put together for 1 and 2, we included photos of porta potties in people's backyards. We included photos of failed beds.
We get a lot of photos now.
Yeah.
We get a lot of them.
We made sure we took all the politicians on tri-tune rides throughout and showed them all the porta potties. So they had first-hand experience watching that. So we'll do it again.
I have another question. Steve mentioned the Eagle grant's gonna, come due in August. We gotta spend that money down. How much do you estimate this time to have non-committed funds in that account?
There is about,
Right now, there's only 15,000 that's not committed. However, 1.7 of the grant was for phase 1, so that shows up in the spreadsheet there. Now, having said that, as we pull that down, I think there's about 400-some thousand.
there's this project has a very complex funding program associated with it. We've got all these sources, and one of the things is that this Eagle, this grant that's got to be spent by August, you have the ability to shift some of these things because the scope that was identified in all of these things is really all tied together, right? Except there's a delineation in phase 1 and phase 2. So we cannot cross that boundary. If there's something in phase 1, Eagle can pay for it, USDA can pay for it, however you want to do it, right? You go into phase 2, now it's different because you got different players and all that.
Well, why I ask is that if there's some non-committed funds in there, my interest is try to use those funds, since we got to pay it down by August anyway, and to help with the expenses of the bathrooms in Devo Beach, because Devo Beach is in phase 1. It would probably qualify under that health and safety criteria that particular grant has. And that would help a lot. There might even be enough in there to do that project altogether, and without having to worry about whether you're going to get a passport grant or anything like that in the future. There might be, if there isn't enough non-committed, or if we can shift some stuff, that'd be very helpful. And because that is one of the reasons why we went for that grant in the first place, is that was one of our number one concerns, because all that money would have to come out of the township, itself. And we were trying to shift some of that into the grant rather than coming out of township funds. So, and I know the passport grants are very competitive and they're very hard to get. I mean, we applied for it twice and was rejected, just because everybody else in the state is going for them for their parks and recreation as well. So I'm just saying, maybe we already have it or can get a good portion of that to put towards that, project already. And that's what I'm asking for. So if that might be possible.
Let me say it differently. Do you have a cash flow analysis of what's committed, what's uncommitted, and what's
Oh, yeah.
projected?
Yeah.
You do, but does the township?
Yes,
Yeah.
this information is all.
It's fluid right now, and we identified some things we think can help with towards the bathroom as part of what we're proposing to get the Eagle grant spent out and also the USDA spent out as well. Because the township did want to get some reimbursements from some previous expenses, right? So, which is about equal to what is in the contingency right now.
So is that on the website as well? Cash flow analysis?
No,
No, there's nothing. There's not like here's the cash line. It's a fluid thing where we've got
I understand.
information. We're working on it.
But even when I was clerk, we had to bounce off, what was committed, what was expected in terms of funds we had from COVID, et cetera, et cetera. It's not hard to put together. It just takes time to keep it up to date.
Well, I think you guys are keeping it up to date pretty good. But like I said, the people don't know how much money's left in there. Like Parks Committee, I guess, has been assigned to figure out the bathroom situation. I don't think they're aware of the situation that there might be even partial money, maybe all of it available, and see what we can do to help fund that project. That'd be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, at the point we're at right now is we need to make sure 100% that we have contingency and money to pay out the obligations that are currently underway.
Yeah.
Right, and then from that point forward, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the next priority is to make sure that the township gets reimbursed for their out-of-pocket costs that went into kickstarting this in phase
Right,
one.
that was about $260,000, I think, and I
that's
think
right.
the USDA is holding some of that money back, last I heard.
We,
And,
yeah, we are trying to hold that back.
Yeah.
To make sure that the township.
Yeah.
Is made whole in that process.
Mhm.
From there, it's kind of making a list of what you want to get accomplished, prioritizing that and saying, this is how we're going to spend out over the summer to make sure it's all spent by August, because it's a use it or lose it. So
Right.
we want to.
And they don't want your money back. You
No.
can't send it back. They say, spend it all, we don't.
but let's remember, we also, the township board committed to putting in ejector and grinder pumps for everyone. So there's a commitment there. And help me remember.
Let me I think I can kind of explain a little bit. Right now, the contingency is about the same amount as the township wants reimbursement for, so we're kind of trying to stay away from that. I've scrubbed through Matt's contract, and because they're essentially done except for putting the rest of the individual grinder pumps in. And I've taken all the stuff where we overspent on this item, underspent on that, because these are unit price contracts. So we paid, it was estimated at 800 feet of pipe, we only put in 750, so we have a bonus for excess there. We might have 300 feet in the contract, it was 400, so it went over. But anyway, it's looking like we're probably gonna have around 100.
While you're looking for that, is there money there that can be used for administrative purposes?
They're part of the scope in the grant does have money for like software or, like billing type things. Some level of administrative things. You need to be a little careful how you. The only things you can get reimbursed for are things that are in the scope. So you just have to have that in the back of your mind if you do something like that.
All right, so it looks like right now we're gonna have maybe like 153 excess in Matt's contract. if Elmer's doesn't change anything, if all they do is finish that lift station down at Arthur Street, we're gonna need about 20,000 to close out their contract when we put plus and minus all the little unit things there. So if we have about this 150 some thousand, one of the things we asked the contractor for pricing for 30 ejector pumps and 5 emergency generators for the 5 lift stations in phase 1. I was hoping to have that pricing by the end of last week, and we didn't get it. We're hoping to have it this week, so we can have some numbers. We think those are priority things, and then we should have a little bit left over if we wanted to, like, put the sewer line from the lift station at Depot Beach over to where the bathroom's going now. We left it stubbed out there because we didn't know which direction you guys wanted to go last year. Some people were pushing for a south parking lot, some north parking lot. So we just stubbed it out so we could go either direction. But, so those are like the 3 main items we're looking at right now. We just don't have pricing on the ejector pumps and the emergency generators. Emergency generators, it was something that was held back because funding was so short earlier on. And we thought, well, they can just rotate generators like a lot of places do. But then after the ice storm last year, I think that's pushed that priority up. I think people would benefit from having a little emergency generator at each one of their stations.
But these are, again, going through a prioritized list of how you allocate these funds to the best benefit of the township.
And we haven't made our recommendation to them yet until we have this pricing. And then once we have the pricing, then we can turn it over to Trudy and the board and the public, and that can then weigh in where the priority should be.
Yeah. And if the bathroom is part of this strategy, then we'll pay for it.
I know there's not going to be enough to do the whole bathroom, but if we can help it, like you said, I think we're going to have something there.
That'd be very helpful. You agree, I'm sure, Trudy, about
I
that.
do, yeah, I do agree, and we're, again, as you know, that grant went in, it's in the first series of points. We'll see how high it comes back.
Yeah.
And then we have time to work on it. We also have the Women's Club who has written a grant, and they should know in another week or 10 days whether or not they are in the running for that, and they have made a gift of that towards the Depot Beach. Jane, help me with that amount again.
The biggest award is $20,000, and then it's a $10,000. Maybe it was 20, 15, 10.
I don't remember either. So again, we're looking at that expense, the cost of the Depot Beach. We have some other things, cards to play, but it's all going to depend on how high it scores the first round. And then Nico is advising us that we can go out and either get in-kind matches and gifts. We can get letters of commitment for gifts, whether it be equipment, money, work, and then we'll see where we are. But yes, certainly all of this comes into play.
Yeah, so it sounds like there very well could be, not promising, but very well could be some money in there to help with that project.
Perhaps, yeah, again, keeping in mind the previous promise from the previous board to help with ejector pumps. And we all experienced the ice storm last year, and we definitely needed generators. That was very apparent right away.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. It would be a nice.
Be helpful, because otherwise it'd come out of general fund or passport grants or, donations or whatever.
Right.
And that's a big chunk of money.
Yep.
And if we can get even, 25, 50% of that, that was a $1.84 million grant, if I'm not mistaken. And if we can squeeze out maybe even $100,000 out of that, whatever's left over, which is really a drop in the bucket compared to the total amount we went for, that we received, that'd be very helpful in moving that project forward.
Correct. But again, we've got a lot of needs.
Yeah.
Of that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the Eagle grant was 1.821. And then you guys immediately spent, this is 4 years ago, 48,700 on the emergency generator over on the other side of town there. Plus 7,500 for that. Yeah, there was a bunch of charges out of that grant before these big contracts were awarded. And then 1.7 of that grant was put into the phase 1 funding package.
Right.
And then they spent a few more little things after that, couple of Mead and Hunt and then CMDA. But then there's 15,611 of the EO grant that hasn't been obligated. So that it's not even in phase 1. You could do basically whatever you wanted that was in the Eagle scope grant.
So there's still committed but not executed expenses that may be able to be shifted or around.
There's 15,611 and 98 cents that has not been obligated to anything.
Put it on the bathroom bill, okay?
I'm just saying, and 1.7 was allocated to phase 1.
Right.
And then there was a bunch of stuff before phase 1 that
Right.
they already bought.
Mostly related to the lift station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the 1 point, some of that 1.7 is going to be left over. We just don't know exactly how much yet until we get some of these quotes in.
Okay, we'll keep the bathroom in mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
I had a quick question. I've been out of town for a few weeks. I just wanted to clarify the RFP that went out for phase 3 did not include Club Drive for Victor or those that were.
No.
Is there any plans, as long as it takes to get the stuff completed, is there any plans for a phase 4 for Club and Victor to try to gather enough signatures, or any plans for what would be phase 4 for Club and Victor?
Go ahead, Sally. We won't bite.
You won't.
Again, my understanding of the one of two ways that it could happen is the township can say, yep, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna include Victor and Club, and put it out there, and if 20% of the people in those areas came back and said, nope, no go, then it's done, and if or then the public can pick it up and run with it, which is sometimes the way it happens with some roads, Chippewa Beach being, I think, the most recent one. Or it could start out and the people on Victor and Club could go, you know what? This week has shown us that we need it.
Right.
And we're gonna pick up and see where the interest lies. So again, it's always an option. And if you go way back in time, there is a map that I was able to find, and the initial vision of this was a 5-phase sewer project. And the area that we're targeting now is for the proposed phase 3, kind of take bits of 3 and 4, but it's very interesting to look at that map because it is here in CBC and the downtown area, as I call it. It includes 3 and 4, north side of the river, south side of the river, which included Victor and Club, and then it goes out to Rainbow End Trail or Lane there across from Wilson, formerly Wilson's, now Mr. Jakeways restaurant, and back in there along the Sturgeon. So it's interesting to look at that. The vision was for 5 phases, which certainly makes sense to me. It's just very lengthy process.
How long ago was that? What year was that?
I believe the map was in 2018. I'd have to go pull it and look at it.
Oh, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that you might be able to go out as a township initiative to do a sewer project for Victor and Club. You cannot. And I'll tell you that straight up, because it does not apply for a construction of a sewer, does not apply for a 20%, objection rule. It does not apply. It applies for roads, sidewalks, all kinds of things, but it does not apply for sewer construction. I can send you the MCL if you want.
Yeah, I do, because I have a phone conference tomorrow with Steve Mann, and so that's one of the things.
I will send you that as soon as I get home. It's 41, I think, 412. I'm guessing the last 3 numbers, but I did a lot of research on that before, and it doesn't apply the 20% rule. You have to have more than 50%.
Oh, I think
To
I
go
am wrong.
forward.
You're correct. Yes. But there is 2 tracks, but do send me that because I do have a conference with him tomorrow. And you are correct. But there are 2 tracks. The township can say, we're gonna do it. If you don't like it, come on in and voice your objection. Or
In a public hearing type situation.
yes, ma'am. Or you can send a letter.
I think according to the law that I read, and if I'm remembering right, in order to move forward, you still have to petition the people to find out if you have more than 50%.
Yes.
You can't just say, we're gonna do it and then come in and check that at public hearing. You have to have the petitions before you can go forward with it.
Yep.
So I will send you those MCLs.
And Public Act 188 amended is what Steve has sent to me several times, and he referenced sending it to Mr. Kramer as well when this process
But
is getting
there's
started.
more, when you look at the MCLs, 41 point whatever, refers to townships, okay? And so they have specific rules about construction of different infrastructure, such as drains, such as, ditches, such as whatever, sidewalks, that kind of thing. But for a sewer construction, you have to have more than 50% of the petitions of the total land mass before you can move forward, whether it's a township initiative or not.
Correct.
So, but I will send you those
Please
MCLs
do.
just so you know, because I did a lot of research on that before, so.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Other questions, comments?
Is there a CIP plan or process item required for the phase 3 sewer?
There, I'll let you respond.
Capital improvement.
Yeah, there's no capital improvement plan,
Item.
right? The PER would generally identify, the scope of the infrastructure and a cost, which you could kind of classify as a capital improvement.
I was under the
It's not-
impression that there was a law that required you to have a capital improvement plan item, but it doesn't have to be funded, obviously, until after you can accumulate, you're gonna accumulate the funds necessary.
I'll have to look into that.
You're saying like within your master plan? Yeah.
Well, it's not in the master plan, you gotta be careful of terminology here, but within the master capital improvement plan. It goes out several years, 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Reedsma, in the past, when that's been included on the CIP, and I recall looking at that CIP and seeing phases, I believe phases 1 and 2. Was that put on after the RFP was, do you recall? Or you just listed it without
We
cost?
listed it as a board initiative, without funding it, and then once the costs come back, then you would fund it.
And were you able to modify that annually as it became more finite? Okay, good deal. All right, thank you.
There should be a change control document.
Okay, thank you.
Trudy, one thing about applying for federal money, if you're going for an EPA grant or a USDA grant, there's no point system. You either get it or you don't. That's about it. Now, there's a point system with state grants.
Yeah.
But not with federal. So I want to make sure. Right now, the federal grants are coming in around $3,000. $3 million. And so that's one of the reasons why we're trying to, we did try to keep phase 3 to about 170 RUs, or properties rather, in there. Because if you add a whole lot more to that, then the funding isn't as profitable for the total cost. And so that increases the cost of what the people have to take a loan out for. So that's why we kind of limit it to the 170 land mass.
Right. Well, in my understanding of the pre-engineering report, and help me if I'm wrong. That some of the information that we hope to obtain from the engineering firms is they're doing the 10,000 foot view. They're looking at what we have, the wastewater treatment plant at its expanded capacity now and all of its additions, which again are still out on the street. The existing usage in the commercial area, the phase one, which I'm saying is completed. We're what, 16-ish short. I'll just say it's finished. And then the potential for phase two coming on in the next 18 months. They're going to look at all of that and then give us advice saying, okay, we see where the interest lies, the 170 makes sense. There's capacity enough, or there's not enough capacity at the plant and you need to trim it, or you could take a few more. So that's good information. In my mind, that's good information to get back. We could all sit here all day and guess numbers. I'm going to lean heavily into the engineers that this is what they do, to look at what we have capacity wise. And
that's why the PER report.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's why you get it.
Exactly. Yeah. And all of that should be revealed.
Right.
In that.
And
help us
Aaron
make
has
decisions.
worked with Airmont extensively.
Yep.
So he has probably the best idea of how set up the plant is to accept
Right.
phase three and what kind of modifications are probably going to have to be done.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's a plus.
Right. Yep. That's right. Okay. Any other questions or comments, concerns?
One more comment.
Sure.
I know excuse me, people, but this is Steve's last meeting, and he is moving, and he has worked with us for years on this project, and I just want to tell you how much we appreciate working with you. You've been so open and forthcoming and helpful, and kept track of the numbers, kept track of the contractors, kept track of Aaron, kept track of everything. So I wanted to just say thank you very much, and we're going to miss you. Especially when this phase three goes on. I might give you a call, say, get your butt back here, we need you. But anyway, so thank you very much for everything you've done, and we really appreciate it. And Aaron, you have been exceptional as our engineer on these projects. We could have never done it without you, because it was you working with USDA and EPA decided that let's do 2 phases instead of 1. We'll get better funding, makes it more complicated on that end, but it helps the people. And for you to do 2 projects plus the plant and everything, that was such a complicated issue. And I want to thank you very much for taking that on. So I hope, you put your bid in for the PER so we can get you again, because it's hard to find an engineer that is as forthcoming and concerned, because he lives in Charlotte. He's part of the Great Lakes group like we are, and he understands where we are. He's not like downstate or another state or whatever. So anyway, I appreciate everything. Thank you. Yay.
He definitely deserves a round of applause on this. He's been amazing on the project.
Aaron's the engineer. He's the one that wrote the original PER and all that. All I did.
He's too humble. So.
All I did for the phase 2 PER was split phase 2 out of phase 1 and kind of wordsmith a bunch of stuff. But
that was so important, because it helped the people be able to afford it. So that was.
This is most likely my last meeting. You never say never. You don't know what's going to happen.
No, because I'm going to drag you back to phase 3.
They are getting me a laptop, and I've agreed that I'm going to try to do what I can remotely, but I know I can't do my job, what I've been doing remotely. But there's some I can help. Do some things I might get help on. I might help on the PER. We'll have to wait and see. But I've got a trailer showing up, a 28-foot trailer showing up on May 8th, and it's getting picked up on May 13th. So it'll be pretty. I'm going to be working full time through the end of this month, and then I'll probably not doing much for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But by the time probably the start of June rolls around, I might be able to do some of this remote help work in that.
Well, thank you very much for everything you both have done. We really appreciate it. It's beyond the pale. And I've worked with other engineering firms before, and you guys are exceptional, just exceptional. So thank you.
And I have to admit, when I came up here, fall of 22, I think for the initial meeting with Bob and that, I lived off and on in northern Michigan in Charlevoix. This is my third time. I had never been to Indian River before the fall of 2022. And I feel like I know it like the back of my hand.
You should, you've been boots on the ground every day.
I've gotten very fond of you guys, so.
Well, we're very fond of you too, so thank you.
So, environmentally, because that's why we're doing this, right? Because we care about our waterways and all that. So phase one contributed, is there a calculation that said, hey, this area is really jacking it up. But this one's not so bad, but this one's the worst. Is that how we proceeded with the project, or we just said, you know what I mean? Like when 1 and 2 are done, how much of a problem do we have left? Environmental.
Well, you can probably speak to the beginning. I know that there's some testing that is going to be undertaken, whereby they're going to target areas along the river so before everyone gets online to get some base levels of E. coli. And there's E. coli from waterfowl and there's E. coli from humans. And the I can't think of the name of the group. It's no, it's not Tip of the Mid. It's U.S. That's what they do anyway. And they are going to be testing all the waterways before we all get online, so that we have a baseline to see where we are E. coli wise. And wouldn't that be interesting this week? And then moving forward to test it periodically to see how things may be dropping. We hope, to answer your question, but I can't speak to back in 2018 what some of the environmental test results were.
It would have been nice to do some baseline last year, but it didn't. We met with the lake folks and Tip of the Mid a month and a half or so ago. I told them it wasn't too late to do baseline. You know, if they got in early, they should, let people get here before a lot of people get hooked up. But as of last week, I think it was, they backed away from Tip of the Mid. Tip of the Mid didn't want to test the phase 1 area.
Yeah.
They just want to do phase 2. So now they're working with environmental group out of TC, I think.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna do some baseline testing after all, before they get a bunch of people hooked up. I don't think a lot of the problems were over in the CBC there. I think more of the problems were down around, Demo Beach and Martin Island and those areas that went along the canal. So I think the baseline testing will still be useful. And then they can test, after everything's done in a couple of years, they can test.
Are they going out into the proposed phase 3 region in the river?
I don't know, I wasn't involved. I wasn't involved in this negotiation. I was there a month and a half ago just to provide information on where all these properties are, what's hooked up, what's not hooked up, and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's the lake people that were involved with getting that set up. But yeah, we're going to do some baseline testing a few years ago.
Yeah.
Our canals are sprayed every year. We're algae and our septic's run right into.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like we're a big part of the problem, and we just don't want to be the problem.
I've seen some scary stuff out there.
When you start doing these individual hookups, you'll see the history of what's out there. It's great.
What we're talking about is the possibility of the Utah Biological Station might have that kind of historical record of who's going like what.
Any other questions or comments before we break this meeting and for a 5-minute pause before the township meeting at 7? Okay, thanks for coming, and we'll be right back at 7. Thank you.
What I said.